All right. Now that we've killed the goblins, it's time to finish cleaning out the blighted village. We're going to loot, of course, all of the containers in the area. There's a lot of food here. The sausages and pork bellies, the larger meats, they have a lot of weight to them. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and send those to your camp so that you're not carrying around all that extra weight. It's not as much of a problem if you have a high strength character. Of course, this is a Bladesinger, so it's a high dexterity, low strength character. I am choosing not to use potions to heal, to preserve the potions, because I know that I'm going to be taking a long rest here. Long rests are pretty important if you want to experience all of the events and all of the storyline. In this case, it's going to advance Will's storyline. He's going to get some bad side effects from us not choosing to kill Karlach. I have been experimenting with doing some runs where I don't take any long rests other than the ones that the game forces. And this generally works pretty well depending on what classes you're using. But there are some aspects of the game that you cannot experience if you don't take long rests. I don't particularly enjoy taking long rests in Baldur's Gate for the reason that I don't like recasting all of the buffs. It's a little bit of tedium. It's not that big of a deal. I would note that if you have a class that needs to bind its weapon, like a warlock or an eldritch knight, you're going to need to do that every time you take a long rest, even though the game is telling you it's a permanent buff. I've been thinking about the classes and characters that can do the game the fastest, at least within the context of the game itself. So completing everything within the shortest amount of time, being not taking long rests. So considering long rests as moving on to another day, and short rests as just taking a pause in your current day. Aside from the 3 long rests that the game forces, I guess 4 if you count the very, very last part of the game, but I think 3. So, counting the 3 long rests that the game forces, you can complete everything in Baldur's Gate within 3 days. In the basement of the apothecary shop, there are all of these coffins. When you open the first one to your right as you come in, you'll get a summon closet scroll, and you'll get a special named closet. You can choose his name. He can be Fork or Basket or Shovel. He's a bit of story about the necromancer who used to own this property. If you open any other casket, you're going to have a skeleton pop out and surprise you, unless you have an elixir of vigilance on. So, since I didn't have anybody with an elixir of vigilance, I went ahead and cast webbing under the coffin that I was going to interact with. And that made it so that the skeleton couldn't get to any of the other caskets. If the skeleton can get to other caskets, then when they open them, more skeletons will be added. The archer skeletons have arrows of ill matter, so they can be quite annoying. They can do a lot of damage. You do get a lot of experience for clearing the room, but you're not going to find yourself lacking for experience in the game. And unless you're trying to hit specific milestones, it isn't necessary to maximize your experience in every instance. So I believe the highest level you can get to as of the end of Act 1 is level 7. I could be wrong about that. I have heard people say that the highest you can get is level 9, but I'm not sure how you would do that. The highest you can get to as of the end of Act 2 is level 11. And then obviously in Act 3, you're going to get to 12. Personally, I'm generally level 6 by the time I finish Act 1. Usually I am actually level 7 if I choose to do both the Underdark and the Mountain Pass. By the end of Act 2, I'm generally level 10. I don't think I've ever gotten to level 11. I've never really maximized the experience that way. All right. Well, it looks like I kind of missed the opportunity to talk about some of the things in the apothecary shop. There's the bracers of defense, which are very useful if you have a character who's not wearing any armor. So any kind of spellcaster, it could be useful. You will find later in the game that you don't really want to wear things on your hands that only give armor. In Baldur's Gate 3, unlike at the table, maximizing your items is important. Typically, when I play D&D at the table, if you get any items at all, it's a pretty major event, and you usually would use them for the rest of the campaign. Not so here. You're going to constantly be upgrading your items, which adds a lot of interest to the game, I think. There's also the Necromancer's Book, which, if you choose to read it, will either curse you, or if you pass the checks, it can give you a bonus. And then there's a lot of herbs. When you come into the goblin camp, which is where I am right now, I have Saza, so she's kind of clearing a path for me. The first thing you want to do is talk to Volo. Otherwise, there can be some weird interactions there. And then the second thing I like to do is go over to Grat the Trader. He has a lot of very valuable items. Specifically, he has the Doom Hammer, which you're going to need in Act 2. He has the Swiresy shoes that I really, really like. He has the Returning Pike, which is amazing if you have a character who's throwing weapons. He has the Boots of Aid and Comfort if you have a healer. Let me see I better check my notes, because I think he has a few other things as well. Oh, he has the Gloves of Archery, which are very nice for anybody who is an archer. Then, when you go inside, I do like to also visit Roa Moonglow. I find it very important to get the Bow of Awareness from her. The other thing I'd like to say about Roa is you're not going to want to kill her. You're probably going to end up killing all the goblins here in the Temple of Selûne. But try to make sure you don't get in combat with Roa. She has some very important, very valuable items in Act 2. You can go ahead and kill her in Act 2, that's fine. But you don't want to get rid of her just yet. There are some other items that she has that people really like, but generally speaking, I think I only really buy the Bow of Awareness from her. If you go and talk to Leviadar, or not Leviadar, Abdarak, which is what I just did, and let him beat you up a little bit, if you pass the correct checks, which are the intimidation checks, as I've found, you can get Leviadar's Love, which means when you're below 50% health, you do extra damage. Here, I triggered Raphael. Raphael will come and visit you at some point in Act 1 and try to make a deal with you. I'm going to use a little trick here, where when he comes and talks to one of your characters, if you have another character that's not in conversation, you can use that character to hit Raphael, and he will flee. He'll leave. You have to be careful not to do this. Like if he comes to you in the Druid's Grove and you do this, the Druids will all get very, very mad at you, and they will fight you to the death. If you do it here in the Goblin camp and they see you do it, it'll be the same result. So that's why I kind of went all the way around and shot him from a distance. By doing this, you're going to force Raphael to come and visit you in your camp. And if you force him to do that and then use silence, you can beat him up, knock him out, and steal his items, which gives you an enormous boost for the game, which I don't remember, but I think that's probably what I'm going to do here. You can go through the ceiling and drop down in this locked room and steal all of the Zentarim's hidden barrels of wine and explosive powder. Those will come in very handy. Strongly recommend doing that. So the other thing you're going to want to do, which I think I kind of forgot to do here, is you're going to want to pick up all of the health potions that are lying about in the goblin camp. If you don't, then when you're fighting the goblins, they will pick them up. And as I come out, I'm going to use some of the barrels to kind of set up a group of goblins to die. And that's it until next time.